All right. It says we're live on YouTube. YouTube for the win.
YouTube for the win, baby.
And I'm going to have to pause this real quick on my side because it's going to, you'll hear it in a second.
All right.
It's got to be quick. There we go. All right. So what's up, YouTube? A little backstory right quick. Yesterday I was helping this guy right here, Vince Roundtree. Say hi, Vince.
What's going on? Hello.
And we were talking about how to gamify a challenge that he has coming up, and just the way he views nutrition and the way he speaks about it just reminded me of myself on the start of this entrepreneurial journey. Because as you know, as I've told the story before, I started out as a nutrition counselor exclusively. And, a lot of my podcast, even though that, it's in the vein of marketing and it's in the vein of the game of life itself, oftentimes I kind of skew and go on a health rant every once in a while. So that ends up happening a lot, actually. So Vince is perfect for this podcast. He's going to be a perfect fit. You guys are going to love him. So without further ado, I'm going to push the record button after a quick little countdown, and we're just going to get right into it. So here we go, Vince. And 3, 2, 1, and... What's up, guys? Welcome to Marketing Siege Radio. Today, I have an awesome guest with me, Mr. Vince Roundtree. Say what's up, Vince.
What's going on, Marty? What's going on, YouTube and podcast listeners?
And on today's episode of Marketing Siege Radio, you guys know, if you've been listening to me for any amount of time, how I often go on a side rant about health, because that's where I started. And obviously, you're not going to have a great time playing the game of life itself if your health meter is always low and blinking and you're about to die. And that's exactly what this guy is all about fixing. He's about bringing that health meter up and, filling that HP bar up. So, Vince, tell us a little bit about how you got started in health.
So my health journey started, or my life kind of changed back in 2011 when I went in for a regular physical and was told that I had high cholesterol and high blood pressure. And I was very upset at the fact that I had it, because I thought I was doing all of the right things. I mean, I kind of worked out on a regular basis. I ate mostly lean cuts of meats, didn't do a lot of snacks. I didn't do a lot of potato chips and sodas and sugary foods and salty foods. I didn't eat any of that stuff. So I thought I was eating all the right things. However, I had high cholesterol to the point where the doctor wrote me a prescription for that. My blood pressure was high, but not to the point where they wrote a prescription. And I asked my doctor, I said, well, can you explain to me why my cholesterol is high and what I can do so that I don't have to take these pills? Because I don't want to take them every day for the rest of my life. I don't want to do that. Like, what's my alternative? And he looked at me and he says, well, you have high cholesterol in your family. Your mom died of heart disease. Your grandmother died of heart disease. Your dad had high cholesterol, your mom. So basically it runs in your family. There's not a lot that you can do. And I wasn't even discouraged when he said that, because I just felt deep in my soul that it was something that I was eating that he didn't know about. So I went home and I did research and I tried to figure out, how can you bring your cholesterol down with food? And that is incredibly confusing, because everybody says they've got the right way. The paleo people say that you can bring your cholesterol down with paleo. The blood type diet says, well, if you've got this blood type, you need to eat this way. And the keto people say you got to put yourself in ketosis. The vegan, the plant-based people say you need to eat that. So what is right? Like, how do you know what's right? And I found myself just trying to figure out, what does the science say? I don't want to just, my undergraduate degree is in chemical engineering. I understand science, and I wanted to find out what is truly the best and healthiest way to eat. And my life basically changed when I found a guy named Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. This guy conducted research where he reversed heart disease. Now think about this. You know what I'm saying? The number one killer in our country today is heart disease. This guy, Dr. Esselstyn, reversed heart disease by putting people on whole food, plant-based nutrition, which is no meat, fish, cheese, dairy, eggs, minimal processed foods. You want to eat whole, plant-based, unprocessed foods. And he showed documented proof of reversing heart disease. Well, I ought to help my cholesterol. Let's see what happens. So August 5th, I decided to eat 100% whole food, plant-based, no meat, fish, cheese, dairy, eggs, minimum oil, minimum sugar, unprocessed foods. 6 weeks, just 6 weeks, my cholesterol dropped over 100 points. It went from 240 down to 132. My blood pressure dropped 20 points, from 135 over 90 down to 115 over like 76. I lost 20 pounds. And I'm thinking to myself, now this is amazing. Now this is amazing. I've got a doctor telling me that my only course of action is to take pills. And I lowered my blood pressure. I lowered my cholesterol. I lowered my weight. And the only thing that I did was ate plant-based foods. I was blown away by that. And, one thing led to another, and I began helping other people do the same thing. And that's why I am just so passionate today about reaching and touching and talking to as many people as I can to share this message, because it's truly life-saving. And the other thing that drives me is your doctor probably doesn't know. Why? Because they don't get any training about plant-based nutrition in their education. And if you look at all of the education, say that a cardiologist has to get, you know what they have to go? So they got 4 years of undergrad. Then they got 4 years of medical school. Then they do 2 or 3 years of residency. Then they do another cardiology training. All of that training, they don't know how to reverse heart disease.
Yeah.
But I do. And you do. Simple.
Yeah.
Whole food, plant-based nutrition, and you can reverse heart disease and many other things, lower blood pressure, lower cholesterol. I mean, just a whole host of other things.
Yeah, it really is that easy. It's I often describe the body as like this biochemical engine, and it only understands these certain fuel types, carbs, fats, and proteins that come from these natural plant-based source. And where you're striving for these foods that are nutrient dense, like there's a lot of nutrients per ounce. Like they pack a big punch for, their weight class, so to speak.
Right.
So one difference between you and I that I'm interested in, and we're going to dig into your system here in just a second. I grew up under this with, I think, 4 or 5 time MMA trainer of the year, Mike Dolce, preaching the same thing. And I told people a lot, like I still eat lean meats and stuff, and I do, cage-free meats and stuff. I haven't gone complete vegetarian, but I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you're going to mess up, it's probably on the animal protein. And so with that being said, like, just kind of dig a little deeper into your system and how you put it together and how you came about finding it out, what worked best for you.
So first, let me address what you said kind of in your journey in, you know, the weight that you lost and training in MMA and cleaning up your diet, but your diet still includes meat. Let me say this. The standard American diet that is full of, you know, drinking sodas and eating fried chicken and eating muffins and donuts and, you know, pastries and potato chips and candy bars and okay, there is a lot of junk in the standard American diet, a lot of what we call processed carbs. Okay. You know, sugars and fats and oil and fried foods. These foods, whether you are, you know, paleo or plant-based, there's a lot that we agree on. We all agree that all that junk needs to come out. So if somebody goes from, you know, eating a Big Mac or every, you know, a couple of Big Macs a day, or, you know, fish sandwiches is fried, and if you go from eating tons of junk food to getting rid of all of the junk, eating more fruits, vegetables, whole grain, and lean meats, okay, that will give you a tremendous improvement in your health. Okay. And now some of my clients may say, but Vince, you say no meat and cheese and fish. Yes, I do. But I'm also comparing it to the standard American diet that's got a lot of junk in it. Right. So
Right.
Going from a diet that's got a lot of processed, refined foods to whole foods, plant-based, plus meat and fish, that is a huge improvement. Now, that said, if that's where you are, you still and you're eating meat and fish and cheese, you know, a couple times a day, even if it's, you know, the grass fed, and even if it's, you know, free range, whatever, even if you're doing all that, you're still consuming a lot of saturated fats. It's embedded in the fiber of the muscle. And so my clients, particularly, they're coming to me, they've got high blood pressure, they've got high cholesterol. Some of them are type 2 diabetes, and they really have got a lot that needs to be cleaned up. So they need to eliminate the animal products as well, because of the saturated fat and the animal protein. So when I switch them all the way over to whole foods, plant-based, the results they get is phenomenal. You know, in fact, just last week, I had a woman who is one of my clients, and she was diabetic when she came to me. She was very much overweight, and she was diabetic and high blood pressure and on blood pressure medications. And she was with, and just over a week, her fast, and she sent me an email. She said, Vince, I can't believe what just happened to me. She said, I just checked my fasting blood glucose in the morning, and it was 98. Now, for those of you that don't understand numbers for diabetes, a fasting blood glucose, you want that to be between 70 and 100. If it's below 70, that's too low. That's a problem. Then from 100 to 125 is considered pre-diabetes. Over 125 is considered diabetes. And she was in the 130 range. So not horrible, but definitely in the diabetic range. I mean, I've seen people up in the 200s. But you know, so she was in the 130s when she came to me, and in a little over a week, her fasting blood glucose was 98. Now that's too quick. Now A1C is the measure that most people use, and that's probably a better measure, but that is a measure over time, right? So that's not going to change that quickly. That takes about 3 months for the, you know, a full cycle of your hemoglobin to change, and that will, you know, that takes time. But fasting blood glucose is kind of like a snapshot. It's what your blood sugar looks like right now. And so to get that type of change, you know, I coach people on whole food, plant-based nutrition, and I really get good results as a result of doing that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think people really underestimate how life altering it really is to make that shift from the standard American diet to at least a predominantly plant-based diet, like you say. Like, my stuff's all wild caught, free range stuff, as clean as possible. But like I said earlier, animal protein itself is also the easiest to manipulate with added hormones, antibiotics, stuff like that. It could be packaged as something totally different than what it actually is. So that is definitely something to look out for. So with that being said, I was talking to you yesterday. We had a little session together, and I was just kind of in awe of your knowledge of everything because, I was the kind of guy, like, I really geeked out on how to, but I didn't dig into all these little nuances as far as like these chemical names and names of the cells and this, that, and the other. And I just want to know if starting out for you, if technobabble was a problem when it came to your marketing.
Yes. And here is the reason why. So when I made this change in August of 2011, I had people coming up to me asking questions that I did not know the answer to. And I hated that. And so I was very curious as to the science and the biochemistry as to what was happening. I really wanted to be able to explain to people what was happening. And so I took, I took a bunch of different courses to educate myself, only to find out later on in marketing, you really shouldn't use any of that stuff anyway, because at the end of the day, the average person doesn't know and doesn't care. They want the results. And they want to understand that, yeah, you know what you're talking about, but they want the results. So as I educated myself, I just naturally just started using the terminology that I learned. I started speaking what the endothelium cells are and how that produces nitric oxide and how that gas expands the arteries. And so people said, the what cell? What the heck are you talking about, man? And so I found myself a lot of times showing pictures. Now, when you show pictures, now that kind of changes things now because you can kind of see what's going on, and that helps a lot. But yeah, even today, a lot of times I really have to catch myself because my mind is so curious on the science behind this that it's so easy for me to start talking science, and that does not work in marketing. That does not work in marketing.
And especially with something like this, like sometimes people even start to glaze over even if you say carbs, fats, and proteins, they're like it's already gone.
Right.
And one of the biggest marketing lessons as it pertained to health that I've ever seen was not this last Funnel Hacking Live, the Funnel Hacking Live before that, whenever Garrett White was talking about adding in the green smoothie to his routine. He was like, don't care about no ketone, G-tone, whatever. Don't care. It's like, just add in a green smoothie. It's like, that's easy, understandable. No technobabble about it. It's just like, this is what to do. He didn't give you 20 million recipes or go into the details of what was in it. He's like, green smoothie, go. And it's like, oh.
You're so right. You are so right. One of the things that another thing I have a problem with is I like information. I want to be flooded with so much that I don't know what to do. That's not a good thing, but that's what I like. And
it's the drug of choice.
You kind of times make the assumption that your clients and people like that too. And it's just not the way it works. People want simple. People want simple. And the simpler that you can make your marketing message, the more effective it is. One of the things that, and I don't know if you heard Steve Larson say this. I mean, you probably heard him tell his story about when he would do carpet cleaning. And was it carpet cleaning or was it exterminator?
I think it was exterminated.
I think it's exterminating. Exterminating. And he said he started off his sales were good. That's door-to-door sales. And he said his sales were good. But then as he learned more about the chemicals and as he learned more about why his company's process was so good, the more he learned about it, the poorer his sales were.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was like an eye opener. And then eventually what he came back to, the cause of that is he's like, people don't buy your product because of the product. People buy your product because of the sales message. They don't buy it because of the product. They buy it because of the sales message. If the sales message is good, they'll buy it. Now, if the product sucks, they're pissed, right? So, you got to fulfill. And I'm not saying to go out and sell a bunch of junk that people will be pissed. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is when people make that buying decision, it's all about whetting their appetite and, future pacing them. And, you sell the vacation, you don't sell, I got to pack up and I got to go through TSA and I got lines on the plane. We're not selling that. We're selling you're on the beaches, the pristine beaches of Hawaii with the white sand and the beautiful waves lapping the shore. That's what you're selling. You're not selling the fact that, you got to figure out, man, how I'm going to do all of my emails when I come back and I need babysitting. All right. And so your sales message is the same way. You have to sell the end result and give them enough about your process so that they kind of get it. But you want to spend as little time on the science and as little time on the delivery mechanism as possible, just enough so that they get, okay, that makes sense.
It's funny that you mentioned Stephen on this too. I just had this thought as you were talking about this, particularly as it relates to health. He goes into the three personas of the red ocean. You have your diehards and you have the people that are like, it's not quite woke, I might be open to change. And then you have the people that are like, I hate this, I need something else. The vehicle I'm in is not working. And you should, go after number ones first and then go into number twos and never go after the diehards.
That's right.
And you can always tell in at least in the health market, with my experience with somebody as it pertains to nutrition, when they're like, they start asking all these questions like, well, what about spinach versus kale? Or what about what's the difference between eating 6 meals a day, 2 to 4 hours apart instead of 7 meals a day, an hour and a half apart? And you're like trying to convince them of all these things. And then you realize it's like, oh my God, this person is like a number 2 or probably a number 3, and those people are, a headache,
Yeah. No, you are so right there. And in my business, understanding those, the temperature of the customer for me is critical, because I absolutely have haters. I'm telling people, don't eat meat, don't eat fish, don't eat chicken. Who wants to give that up, right? So I spend zero time. If somebody says, man, I can't give up my meat, okay, that's fine. Next. I'm not spending any time with you. The people that I market to are people who are in pain and looking for a solution.
Mm-hmm.
That is my avatar. You have heart disease, you have diabetes, you may have, you're losing your eyesight because of the diabetic retinopathy. You may be getting some pain and tingling in your feet, which is diabetic neuropathy, which could lead to limb amputation. You're severely overweight and you don't like the way that you feel, and you're open to something that's new. You just want a solution to your pain. That's who I market to. And that's what's so rewarding, because I can help. Like, I can help. I mean, I'm not just giving you pie in the sky. I can help. And my job is to help cut through all of the confusion, because gosh darn it, it is more confusing now than ever. You know, the paleo movement is so big. The keto movement is so big that the average person sitting at home that just wants to lose weight, they don't know what to believe. Yeah. And for those people, what I do is put them back on my journey, and I share with them what I saw that made me believe. And what I saw that made me believe was I saw the picture of an artery to the heart that was clogged. Mm-hmm. And then I saw that picture of that same artery with no medical intervention. Only thing they did was put them on plant-based nutrition. When I saw that, and I saw the number one killer in this country, I mean, 800,000 people a year die of heart disease. That's a person die every 40 seconds, man. And the vast majority of those lives could be saved if they ate fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. Legumes is anything in a pod: beans, split peas, lentils, chickpeas. If you eat that's with tons of herbs and spices and seasonings, and drink plenty of water, if you just eat that way, the body will heal itself. And so I show people those, the pictures of that artery as much as I can, because that's what did it for me. And when you see that, man, it's like, why not try? I mean, why not? Why would you not try? The only downside is, only side effect is you lose some weight. Why not try eating more fruits and vegetables? Let's try that. Maybe throw in some beans, and why not try it?
Yeah, let's just add those in. We talked about this concept yesterday of kicking addiction through addition. It's so important to living life itself. It's like you're always marketing, even if it's to yourself. In a situation like this, like, you have to change the story that's going on in your own head oftentimes to be able to, kick that pain and pleasure ratio to where you actually take action. And it's like, you just got to be thinking about, like, I'm adding in all of this nutrient dense stuff into my body, so my body will automatically do its thing. And that's going to allow me to avoid all this unnecessary work. Because I mean, you got to think about, I can remember when I was 100 pounds overweight, it's like how challenging it is to carry this extra 100 pounds around. And it's not exactly like it's in a convenient backpack either. Like, it's everywhere. And it's like, oh my God, it's like my balance is terrible. I'm walking to the mailbox, I'm like, wow. Wow. So it's that was really the first time that I understood this whole addition thing. Is that mindset is a way to conquer any ill feelings that you might have towards this, because otherwise you feel like you're sacrificing that burger, you're sacrificing that pizza, you're sacrificing the ho-hos and the donuts. It's like, and those are not really serving you. But I digress on this. So real quick before we wrap this up, we were talking about this concept yesterday, and I'm sure you get all the time about, it's like, how do you keep how do you eat enough protein if you're not eating meat and whatnot? And it's like, through this diversity of all these different types of plants, it's like you can fulfill your need for protein through diversifying these plant-based sources. But as we were talking about this concept yesterday, Vince, if you could have been there, like he spit out like 10 long chemical names in a row. And I was like, I know what he's talking about. And I'm like, and I'm shelling up. I'm like, oh, that's too much. but at the same time, I love the passion, and it just reminded me, it's like, okay, there's a lesson here on the techno babble. So Vince has a few pictures prepared for us, and I just want you to like kind of do your thing, and we're gonna like just have a quick little lesson on how to un-techno babble the situation. So go ahead with it.
All right. So first of all, thank you, Marty, for bringing that to my attention. I need to hear that, right? Because I know that I've got that and that's not a good thing. So thank you for bringing that to my attention.
You've done a great job today on the podcast of not going all techno babble on us. So
all right, thanks. I'm gonna try to keep it through. So I did want to share with your audience that picture that I described that basically changed my life. This picture changed my life. This is you've got a couple of main arteries in your heart, okay, and this one is the one that they call the widowmaker, because you don't get a lot of symptoms when that one gets clogged. And so what you're seeing here is, you see how this artery is pretty wide open right here, and then you get to this part right here where it gets really thin. That is an artery collapsing, and that is about to be a heart attack. This person is in really bad shape right now, because when that closes off completely, you have a cardiac event, and you'll probably die. The odds are you're going to die. And so this person was put on whole food, plant-based nutrition, okay, which means fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. They were not, they didn't eat refined carbs. They didn't consume any kind of oil, not olive oil, not extra virgin olive oil, not coconut oil. They consumed no oil. They consumed, because oil is processed, right? I mean, olive oil started off as olives. So eat olives, but not the olive oil. Eat corn, but not the corn oil. So all they had was whole plant-based foods, and the same person, the same heart, the same artery. That's what that artery looks like right now. No medical intervention, no angioplasty, no stent, no surgery. They ate plants. This is visual indication of complete reversal of heart disease. And for me, that was a game changer, because this person would have more than likely died at an early age, and now they are healthy. So that's what I wanted to share with your audience. I've got some more I can go on, but I don't, so it's up to you if you want me to go on and give them more or not. It's up to whatever you suggest.
That's great. And for those of you listening who are not looking at this right now, the before he's showing right now, like if you think of arteries as like hoses that are in your body that blood runs through, you're looking at the before. There's a part of the hose that looks semi-normal, not as healthy as the one on the right, but it looks semi-normal. It gets to this spot where it looks like the hose has been like shriveled up. It looks like dried up asparagus, and it looks like it's been twisted and knotted up. Like it looks really, really nasty. And then after the plant-based, nutrient-dense diet, all of a sudden the hose looks full and healthy and vibrant and full of life. Like it is amazing to look like. So there was a kind of like bridge right there. Russell Brunson talks about it all the time. Like arteries are kind of like hoses. Like if you don't know what an artery is, like, you know what a garden hose is, I would assume. Maybe not, but better chance, maybe. And then another one that just kind of tickled me. What sort of cells were you talking about before we actually went live?
You see, so now you pulling me in, right? So now you're pulling me in. So
I just want people to see how knowledgeable you are on this as well, because your passion really shines through on this.
So I was talking about the endothelium cells. So the endothelium cells are the inner lining cells of your arteries, and those cells are when they're healthy are capable of making nitric oxide, and nitric oxide is a vasodilator that actually causes your arteries to expand, and it also keeps the LDL cholesterol particles from sticking. And it's when the LDL particles stick to the artery walls, that's what begins that process of atherosclerosis. And atherosclerosis is the process of clogging your arteries. And so I have included another picture here where you can see the top picture is this artery is very clean and it's like the garden hose is wide open. And then this bottom picture has some yellow gunk in it down here. And if you look at it from the side, you see that instead of it being wide open like up top, blood only has a narrow area to flow through. And that is atherosclerosis. And atherosclerosis starts off by having unhealthy endothelium. And the endothelium is the cells on the inner lining of your arteries. And in fact, I'll throw one more fact out there. For those that can see this picture, you see that there's only a small area where the blood can flow through on here. Well, this can happen to arteries all over your body. It can happen to the arteries that lead to your brain, arteries in your heart, arteries in your limbs, and for men, arteries to the penis. And when that happens, you don't get the blood flow you need. That means when the time is right, the time won't be right because you need blood flow. And when you only have blood flowing through a small portion like this, that's a problem. Now, actually, erectile dysfunction is like the canary in the coal mine. It's an early warning signal because those arteries are smaller. So if you've got some atherosclerosis, it's going to show up there first because they're smaller arteries. And so you're not getting the blood flow. I think the statistics, something like 70-80% of men that have erectile dysfunction within the next 5 years, they're going to get a heart attack. So, rather than just taking the Viagra, the good news is that this atherosclerotic plaque, like you saw on the previous screen, that can be reversed. And the only thing that can reverse it is plant-based nutrition. There is nothing else that can reverse it all over your body at the same time. Now, the medical industry tries to, they can pinpoint reverse it with angioplasty or with a stent, but that is only in one spot. But if you've got that condition, you have it all over your body. You got it to your feet. You got it to your hands. You got it in your kidneys. Matter of fact, that's what causes a lot of kidney disease. That's what you got it in your brain. You got it all over. And when you eat whole food, plant-based nutrition, it's kind of like a vacuum cleaner that sucks up all of that atherosclerotic plaque through your veins all over your body at the same time. And when you get that, your health changes. And I have seen it happen to people, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing.
That was an awesome kind of like bridge that you ended with right there. And just wrapping it up, those endothelium, right? That's the right word.
Yes, sir.
All right. Endothelium, like it's important that those bodyguards, they're kind of like bodyguards that play bouncer and keep that plaque off of your artery walls. So it's pretty important they stay healthy in the grand scheme of things. And, activate that vacuum cleaner that sucks all that gunk out. So you have a healthy cardiovascular system. So,
man, I need you to help me with my kind of likes, man. Those are good.
So awesome, man. Like, I love this. I'm like I said, anybody who's listened to this podcast long enough knows I'm very passionate about health, because I mean, that's where the game of life begins. You literally cannot do anything else until you have your health under control. So wrapping it up, just where can we find you, Vince, and what's on the horizon? Where can people find out more about you if they want to?
So you can find me. First, you can feel free to send me an email at vince.roundtree@gmail. I'm on Facebook. If you search for Vince Roundtree on Facebook, Roundtree is with no D, ROUNTREE. You can find me on Facebook. My business page on Facebook, and the name of my business is Eat Plants and Thrive. So if you go to Eat Plants and Thrive, please send me a message if you want more information. Or if you've got, any of the chronic illnesses that we spoke about and you want more information, please feel free to send me a direct message there. And what I got coming up. So April 1st, I am going to have a blood pressure challenge where for 14 days, I will give you the recipes. I'll give you the grocery list. I'm going to give you tracking so you can track everything. And I'm going to give you some video instructions on what to do for 14 days. And you measure your blood pressure at the beginning, you measure your blood pressure at the end. And I am very confident that if you eat the way that I lay out in the challenge, that you can lower your blood pressure. In fact, if you're on blood pressure medication, and we'll talk about this in the challenge, it is imperative that you measure your blood pressure every day. Why? Because the food that you eat is directly related to your blood pressure. And if you're on pills and you stay on all of your pills 100%, and all you do is change to whole food, plant-based nutrition, and you keep taking the pills at the same rate, the odds are really good your blood pressure is going to drop too low. And that's not good. So that's just how powerful plant-based nutrition is. And I would love for you to experience that for yourself with my blood pressure challenge. So you can reach out to me through Facebook, through Facebook Messenger. And I don't have the funnel for that is being built right now as we speak. So I think I've got the URL, which is, I think is bp-challenge.com. It's not set up now. But everything will be set up by April 1st when we're ready to go. So the best way to do is to send me an email or send me a Facebook Messenger and say, hey, Vince, I'm interested in the blood pressure challenge. And then we'll be sure to get you added to the list.
Awesome, man. All right. That about wraps it up for today, guys. And remember, you're just one upgrade away. All right. There's that. Bye, YouTube.